In the cold October of 1962, humanity teetered on the precipice of nuclear annihilation, a moment in time frozen in the annals of history, known as the Cuban Missile Crisis. This wasn't just a political standoff, but a high-stakes game of chess between two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. The world held its breath as tensions escalated day by day, hour by hour. The chilling possibility of a nuclear war loomed large, a war that could obliterate cities, decimate populations, and possibly wipe out civilization as we know it. The stakes were unimaginably high, and yet, amidst the clanging echoes of war drums, the delicate dance of diplomacy continued, played out in backrooms and secret telephone lines. The fate of the world hinged on the decisions made by a few men in suits, thousands of miles apart. At the heart of this crisis, a man's decision would shape the fate of the world. Enter Vasily Arkhipov, a Soviet naval officer not known by many, but his actions would echo through history. Born in the small town of Zvorkovo, Arkhipov was a man of humble beginnings. His journey led him to the Soviet Navy, where he served with quiet determination and unyielding courage. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, he found himself in the eye of the storm as second in command aboard the nuclear-armed submarine B-59. In the depths of the ocean, cut off from the world, Arkhipov and his crew were unaware of the escalating tensions above the surface. He was a man caught between duty and destiny, a silent guardian in a world teetering on the brink of destruction. Arkhipov was not a man of grand speeches or heroic posturing, but a man of action. His decisions were not made in the spotlight, but in the shadowy confines of a submarine's control room. Yet his role was pivotal. Arkhipov was about to face a test that could end life as we knew it. On the fateful day of October 27th, Arkhipov found himself in the claustrophobic confines of a nuclear-armed submarine under the waters of the Caribbean. And in the heart of this steel beast, B-59, the air was thick with tension. The submarine, carrying nuclear torpedoes, had lost contact with Moscow. The world above was a distant memory. Encased in their metallic tomb, the crew had no way of knowing what was happening on the surface. The only reality was the eerie silence of the deep sea, punctuated by the occasional whirring of the submarine's engines. Suddenly, the silence was shattered. American forces had detected B-59 and were dropping depth charges in an attempt to force it to surface. The submarine shook violently, the lights flickered, and the men inside were thrown off balance. The fear was palpable. It was a hostile attack, they thought. The war had begun. Amidst the chaos, a heated debate erupted among the officers. Some argued for retaliation, to launch a nuclear torpedo at the American fleet. The destruction would be unimaginable. A single missile had the power to ignite a global nuclear war, a war that could potentially wipe out humanity. The pressure was immense. The fate of the world rested on the shoulders of the few men inside that submarine. There was disagreement, dissent. The stakes were too high, the situation too volatile. Tempers flared, voices echoed in the cramped space, each officer arguing his point with increasing desperation. But beneath the cacophony of voices, there was one man who remained silent. A man who listened, who weighed the arguments, who understood the gravity of the situation. His name was Vasily Arkhipov. In the midst of the turmoil, he held his peace, his mind racing. He considered the implications, the potential fallout, the lives that would be lost. He was the second in command. His voice carried weight. His decision could determine the fate of the world. And then, in the deafening silence that followed, a voice of reason emerged. In the midst of chaos, Arkhipov stood alone, opposing the launch of the nuclear torpedoes. Amidst the clamor of voices calling for war, there was one who dared to dissent. Vasily Arkhipov, a name etched in history yet often overlooked, defied his superior. He refused to authorize the launch of the warhead, insisting that such a decision required full consensus. In the confines of the submarine, tension hung heavy as a shroud. Arkhipov, however, stood resolute. His courage did not waver, nor did his calm falter. The weight of the world rested upon his shoulders, the future of humanity teetering on the brink of his decision. But he held firm. In the face of immense pressure, Arkhipov chose peace over war, dialogue over destruction. His decision, a beacon of calm in a storm of panic, had averted a catastrophe. A single man's choice had saved humanity from itself.